Right everyone, so here's a quick video of how I'm going to do the soft top for the B16. Basically, I've started with tissue, which is just a regular, these are travel tissues, these are 4-ply tissues. So the more ply, the thicker the tissue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet it with a mixture of PVA wood glue and some water. So I'm going to water the glue down into something a bit more liquidy because it's quite thick obviously at the moment, and then I'm going to cover the tissue in it and drape the tissue over the shell and tuck it in, make it all nice and neat as much as I can, and then let it dry, and it will set, the glue will set hard, and you will then have a kind of natural-ish looking soft covering. But obviously it'll be hard. And you paint it, weather it, and so on. There's a couple of things to watch out for, of course. Once the tissue gets wet, it's very easy to tear it. Like unbelievably easy to tear it. So you may want to try different tissues, paper towels, that kind of material. Just try different versions. Toilet roll. I've got some kitchen roll. Yeah, you see it there? It's got patterns on it, right? So that's no good. That's not going to work. So I don't believe the patterns are going to come out to that extent once it's wet. So try a few different materials, and and then obviously once you found the material and the right consistency of glue and water, then set to work. But I, of course, I'm not one for practicing. I'd rather just get stuck in. So I'm going to crack on with this. What I've done already is I have cut the tissue down so it's something approaching the right size. So this is going to be tucked in around the windscreen, around the top frame edges here, and then it's going to cover the back window as well. So it's really just the back and the roof that I'm after. I'm not after the sides, certainly not after the front. So these are the sections that I've cut off from the tissue already. Now these will probably get rolled up, again covered in some of this, and then they'll just be like sleeping rolls and this kind of thing. So let me mix up some wood glue, and then I'll show you the consistency of that. Right, so I have mixed up some of the solution. As I say, it's just wood glue. I mean, it's nothing fancy, just white water-soluble glue. I have made it so that there's a little bit of thickness there. It does eventually drip off the brush. Okay, it will eventually drip off the brush, but it's not watery. Okay. Okay, so I have started gluing the front end, the front side. I am just taking some glue out of the glue bottle, and I am just running it under the fold. Now I'm not gluing all the way along, because obviously I've got the back of the cab to think about, so I'm going to have some flexibility along the back of the truck. The trouble with this kind of slightly complex shape is, without gluing the tissue down, I can't really get any proper measurements on the back, because it just moves around. So I'm going to kind of do the front and glue it on, get it set, and then once it's set I can start working the back. There's also going to have to be a complicated fold in here as it comes over, but we'll go one thing at a time. So I've just, with some slightly thick straight from the bottle glue, just glued these sides, one side front and the other side. And you can see the plies start to come away. Well, that's okay, you can get some glue in those, but again, don't slather the thing in it. I can still pick this up, because the problem is it'll glue to the desk. It'll glue to the table. If you put too much on while it's off the truck, you won't be able to pick the thing up without it tearing. So all I've done, and be careful with your fingers, is just get the seams, get the edges done. So I'm not going to have a raw edge. Because on the truck it would obviously be folded under. There'll be a metal rail probably running through the canvas hood, and you know what I mean. It's going to be folded under and then clipped onto the roof. It won't just be a bit of canvas. with its raw edge visible around the sides. It'll be tucked under, so you've got to have that kind of look. If you're going to do it properly, you've got to kind of try and replicate to some degree the reality of it. I've also, you'll notice it's a bit big, just a tiny bit, I hope. It's not quite a dead match width-wise, because obviously once it sags, it's going to pull in slightly. There's got to be a little bit of give so that it can drop in, you know, and the edges come in and sit level. Okay, we need to get stuck into this. So I'm going to put some thicker glue straight from the tub, straight from the bottle here, around the edges of the truck, the cab roof. Okay, because this is what I want it to really get a grip of. And don't worry about wood glue, it's water soluble, so it isn't going to upset any paint, for example, that you might have on what you're doing, and it isn't going to be a problem to clean it up afterwards. Okay, so if it runs out, it runs down the side of the truck, just, you know, once it's wet, don't pick it off, because you'll pick the whole lot off in one go. Just wet the glue and you'll find it just lifts straight off. Okay, it's a great thing to work with. It's obviously not the strongest adhesive in the world for what we're doing. It's not wood, so obviously wood glue is not going to be the ideal bonding agent, but it's you'd be amazed what you can stick with it, and how neatly it can be stuck in the end, because you can tidy it up so nicely. So let's just get this, pull that, get some of this in. Let's go for a little bit of this droop thing already. Kind of meant to be a reminiscent of the real thing rather than a perfect scale replica. Now let me show you the real thing. Oh, there you go. Right, so here's the real thing. This is a picture of the real thing, and you can see the canvas roof, so you can see all the gathering, you can see the edges, that it's you know, sort of framework in under the tarp. See, it kicks up, but it is, you know, to all intents and purposes, a nice straight edge on there. So that's the kind of effect I'm going to be aiming for with this. Whether I get that effect, well, time will tell. But the beauty, of course, is that you can just reset it, just dampen it down, the glue will start going soft, and you can just reset it in the right kind of position. So I think we've got a hole there. Alright, so I'm going to leave this for a couple of minutes. I'll leave this for 5 minutes or so. Right, so what I've got so far is I've kind of got the edges on the cab where I'd like them. So I've started looking at the back here, so it's going to wrap round. That's going to be my first try. The second option I've got obviously is to put a separate piece around the back. Okay, so if I have to do that, then we'll do that in due course. But what I'm trying to do is fold it over, and obviously I've had to unfold, you know, the seam that we made here, the kind of fold that we put in the tissue. I've had to unpick it so that when this wraps around, there's enough to cover the gap. It's got to join on this line. Okay, it's got to join on that pillar. So I've had to unpick what the seam I glued down. It's going to look a little bit rough. It's going to be a little bit rough and ugly in there. But once this is wet, once it's all sort of doped up, it will fold in much happier, and you know, there'll be the odd seam line, but I'm not too fussed about that. This side didn't go quite so according to plan. The tissue tore here, as you can see, as I was trying to unfold it and unpick it. Now, perhaps I'd start again. But what I'll try and do, because you know you need to see that things go wrong as well for other people, not just you. And so what you know, worst case scenario, I'll put a patch on this. When it's done, I'll just take a little square of tissue and stick it on, and you know, there you go. It'll be our little secret. I've also marked along the back where the where I'm like to have to fold or cut, because I really want this to run along the back edge, but not so far down. Okay. So I'm not gonna. I could cut, or I could fold up. I think I'm going to fold up instead. Be nice to just get that. Alright, so that, I think I'm going to call that good for now, for the edges and the kind of general shape and so on. I'm going to put that in the water. I'm going to put the lid back on the glue, and then we'll come back in probably 2 or 3 minutes, just again let that end fall off, let it dry off a little bit, and then we will start soaking and getting it wet and making it look a bit more like how it's meant to be. Right, so I'm happy that the edges are glued on. I've put a panel on there so that it's not the tear won't be so visible. So let's have a look at putting the dope, as you could call it. I think that's the right name for it as well. You know, this is how they made the planes of World War One, the old biplanes, where they had the wooden frame, and then they put the canvas over it and they doped it with a kind of paint stroke glue to make it hard and strong. And that's really just all this is. I might put a bit more water in this, just because I think it's gone a little thick while it's been sitting. I know that feeling. I'm going to pour it down the brush, okay? Just so it doesn't go off the back of the cup all over the desk. Right. Okay. So that's two drips. So that's probably, I'll go along with that. If I can get 2 drips off the brush, yeah, that's probably about thin enough. I wouldn't want to go any thinner than that. Right, so again, the point of this is not to slather the thing, but just to kind of just wet it. Okay, it just wants to be wet now. And you've got to be so delicate with the brush, because you know you will go through it. I mean, I don't really want to put any pressure on the brush. You know, I'm just kind of guiding the brush rather than pushing it down. Like I say, this stuff, as long as you're careful, as long as you respect it and don't get too cocky with it. Now, what I might, so that's the inside of it. There's not, a great deal to see, but you can see the texture on that there. You can see the cocktail stick is coming through. Is it all sagging too much? I think it does look as if it needs some remedial work. If he's sitting under that, it's more like a bedouin tent than a tanker cab roof at the moment. So there, yeah, I think we'll call that. done. There may be a little bit of edge tidying up. but I'm going to call that done. That's it. You know, I don't want to go on too long. That's 36 minutes on the audio recorder, so maybe half an hour, 25 minutes to put that together and get it glued. And I'm going to say that that's done. With maybe just a little bit of, I might go over the edges a bit more with some more glue just to make sure they stick onto the plastic and form nicely. But yeah, there you go. So thanks for watching. Obviously next time you see this, it'll probably be getting painted, so then we'll really see what it looks like. Once you get some paint on it, then you really get an idea of how it works. Alright, hope you found that useful. Thank you, and over to the main feature, I think. I don't know how I'm going to present this to you, but anyway, goodbye, or carry on watching what's coming next. Whichever. Cheerio!